to the cloud. Now we're recording, we are broadcasting, we are ready to rock and roll here. Okay.
We are good to go. Episode 26 of the Georgie and Patty Show. I'm Georgie.
I'm Patty.
Yay!
Woo!
Technology is working, and we have a very, very, very exciting show today. I feel it's very exciting. It's one of Patty's favorite topics. So we're going to talk about selling the invisible, and there's going to be a lot of models and metaphors in this version of our show today. So I'm just going to jump right in with a quote because Patty has a lot to talk about today. So the quote today is, "When I was a kid, I felt like an outlier, a black sheep, always wanting to belong. Older, perhaps a little wiser, I've learned that it's the outliers that create magic. Black sheep rock the world." And that's by a guy by the name of Kamal Ravikant, who I actually just discovered yesterday. He has a book out called, what did I say it was? Love yourself like your life depends on it. And what I've discovered and why I think this really fits with the topic that we're talking about today, because it really is about taking things, making them your own, looking at what works for you, what's your signature offering that you have to the world, and how can you bring it to the world in your way. And in his book, he describes a process of how he got to basically loving himself, I guess. And instead of going outward and looking for the guru and looking for how do I do this and how do I do that, he really tuned into himself, created his own process, probably influenced through other things because I think that's how it typically works. But he did his own thing. Like he's the outlier. He's the black sheep. He knew what he wanted. He trusted in himself, and he created his own model to do his own thing. That's now apparently this best-selling book, and it's helped lots and lots of people. And that's really what we're talking about today: is to really embrace your mystic misfit, or your black sheepness, or your outlierness, your uniqueness, all of those things that make you you, and how you bring your work to the world in a way that works for you and your clients. So I'm not going to keep talking because Patty has a lot to say. And so with that, I say, take it away. Slides, let the slides begin.
All right. Here we go.
Here we
Yes.
go.
Do you see my PowerPoint screen? I'm not
I
getting
see your
the
PowerPoint
green
screen.
circle. Is it just the PowerPoint?
Yep, just the PowerPoint.
Excellent. All right. So here we go, episode 26, all about models and metaphors. This was the original topic, but as I put this together, I realized that what this actually is way more exciting, way more awesome than a couple of M words. This is really about how to explain and sell the invisible. That's what makes this so freaking powerful. And I have a tremendous amount of gratitude to the person who, during the Getting Unstuck session, kind of questioned Diltz's logical levels model, saying, hey, when I look at that, I'm thinking that maybe those levels aren't in the right order. And at that point, I'm like, hey, permission slip, make your own pyramid, right? And that is what this is about. Like the people that Georgie and I work with have unique work to bring in to the world. Like, this is part of my mission. This is, the title of my book, The U-Shaped Business, because you're bringing something special to the world. And what we're talking about today is a way of drawing a picture of it to make it visible. And your permission slips for today, first of all, design and own your own work, your own unique process. There's no magic permission slip that was handed out to Diltz or Maslow saying, you have permission to have a pyramid. Here's your pyramid building permit. We're all allowed to create pyramids if we want to, or process arrows or Venn diagrams, whatever. And this is kind of the mission that we're on as, thought leaders in a way. Experts in our fields, people who help with transformation, people who provide professional services, is we have a unique way of bringing our work to the world, and this is the way to make it visible. So go ahead and design it and own it, and you have permission to say, you know what, I think Maslow was wrong. I think he got the the levels in the wrong order. I think he misnamed this one. I think I see the world differently. And you can call it your hierarchy. So that's the first slip. The second one is or not. This is one of those things where either you get kind of super excited about or you're like, whatever. So if this is not your thing, that's fine too. You don't have to do this. It's not a requirement. But if you have struggled to explain the invisible to people, if you find that people don't get what you're doing or don't get the value in what you're doing, or you even get confused about what you're offering and how it works, this can be super, super helpful to start thinking about it in terms of pictures, models, diagrams, metaphors. And that's our topic for today. As I was searching for pictures for this slide deck, came across this delightful quote here. The positive thinker sees the invisible, feels the intangible, and achieves the impossible. This is actually kind of a description for the people that we work with. Creative people, people who are moving us forward, people who see new possibilities. We're kind of traveling in uncharted territory. We're doing stuff that hasn't been done before, and we have our own view of how that works. And for the people that Georgie mentioned earlier, those of us who feel like black sheep's a little bit misfit, that kind of thing, we see something that other people don't see, and this is a way to bring that into the world. So here's the number one problem for service businesses, just any kind of service business, is that what you're selling is invisible. If you're doing, like freelance work or construction work or something like that, there's an end product. If you're doing graphic design, you've got a design, or a website is a website, or even, copywriting is words on a page. There's some tangible product to it. But when you're selling transformation, there's nothing. You're helping your clients get from where they are now to where they want to go, but you're not actually physically delivering that end result. Georgie and I in our business, we help our clients get clients and make money, but we don't put clients in a box and FedEx them to our clients, right? I mean, if we could do that, we could probably make gazillions of dollars. But instead, what we're offering is this invisible service that fits in between I don't have clients to I do have clients. And that makes it complicated and a little bit frustrating for transformational business. If you're selling coaching, if you're selling wellness services, that kind of thing, you're in the same boat, that what you're selling is invisible. And sometimes that makes it hard for clients to understand. It makes it hard for clients to understand the value behind it. Makes it hard for you to explain it. It causes a lot of confusion in the conversations that you have with people, where they don't get it, a lot of frustration. And even if you're providing a service of some sort, like graphic design or web design or copy or something like that, a lot of times the end result doesn't reflect to the client the time and effort that took to get there. They're like, oh, so you made me a logo. So there's some words and some shapes on here. Why did I spend so much money on this? And we sometimes, I've talked to freelancers, get a lot of pushback for that. It's just a simple website. Why does it cost so much? And this solves for that problem as well, because you can explain more about how you do what you do and what makes it so valuable. So this is super powerful in terms of your sales and your marketing. So instead of selling something invisible, when you put a picture or a model to it, now you're selling the magic triangle of awesomeness, or you're selling a metaphor of some sort, like, it's in a jar, you're putting it in a package, you're making it more visible to people and making it easier for them to understand. So in terms of levels, one of the models we use in our business right here on the screen, this is primarily like building a signature service, putting together kind of your life's work into a fancy diagram or model, is very much a level 2 sort of activity. So if you're at a level 1 business, I'd advise you not to invest a lot of time and effort thinking about how to create this level 2 signature service kind of a thing yet. You can keep it in mind. Some people find this helpful for thinking it through, but At the end of level 1, when you've worked with some clients and you have more experience, this level 2 stuff becomes much easier. It's easier to do, it's easier to visualize, and you'll know that you need it. So we have simpler models that we work with in level 1 for people. However, that being said, that being said, models beyond, your signature service and your work as a whole, models can be useful at all different little places in your business. You can use little mini models all over the place. Um, you can use models to describe your service and how it works. You can use it for explaining concepts to people to help them understand it. You can use models to create the client journey, to show people how you work with them, what that journey is as they work with you. You can also create internal models for the client journey or the sales journey, what you do in each step of the way. You can create models, visual diagrams from internal systems and processes. If a checklist doesn't do it for you, or a planner doesn't do it for you, you can use these kind of models. I know in my own business, like I just need to see things. I'm just very visual. I need to see things. I need to map it out. I need arrows and boxes and triangles in order to make sense of stuff. It's probably because of my background as a programmer, lots of flow charts to explain how the software should work. And I've always wanted that kind of flow chart for business stuff. This is what got me excited about creating models. It's that. And it just makes it visible, makes it easy even just for me to understand. So it's not just for explaining to your clients, sometimes it's for explaining to yourself. And it can help you organize the information. You can put a structure to it. So modules for a course or chapters in a book. Uh, Models, creating visuals can help with a lot of this stuff. So what I'm going to share with you today are some examples and some ideas and some steps for getting started here. So we can look at a model. We talked about a pyramid. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I showed you a screen earlier. That was Dilt's logical levels. A pyramid is a really nice model to, like when you think about the picture of a pyramid, it's got kind of this wide base and the levels build on each other. A pyramid shows that all of the things belong together, that there is a hierarchy to them, kind of an order. And Maslow's is a great example of this. Like you need your physical food and shelter, water needs. Like that's baseline. You can't go above that without that. You can't even live without that. And each one of these models builds on each other. And this is part of his theory, is that we need to build these things in order. And if we're missing a lower level, we can't go for a higher level. You can't have a pyramid that only has the layer of esteem. You need the rows below it. So this is a nice way of mapping out, like when you look at the terms in the chart, those are concepts. Those are not easily visualized. The order to it isn't easily visualized, but when you put it in a pyramid, all of a sudden it starts to make sense. So if you do that kind of work where there's kind of a baseline, there's an order of operations, and that you keep all of the things in the pyramid. That's the other thing. This is a pyramid. At the end, you have a full pyramid. You have all of the things that are in the pyramid. So pyramid is a nice, simple way to chart stuff out. This might be how you work with your clients. First, we do this, then we do this, then we do this, then we do this, and at the end, voila, we've got something beautiful. It can show levels. We could have put this in a pyramid. Instead, we chose steps. There's different ways to visualize things. But Georgie and I put this together to talk about where people are at in their business, to help them see what they need and what they need to focus on and where they're going in the future. We have a level 1, a level 2, a level 3. And then this creates kind of a shorthand when we're talking to people. It's like, oh, do you have a level 1 business or a level 2 business? Like, oh, and for our clients, it's useful. And they could go, oh, that program's for level 3 businesses. I'm not there yet. I don't know how to pay attention to. But this shows kind of a process and a moving up. It's a moving up process. Allows people to find their place in time and space. So something like this might be useful for you as well in your business, is to just say, okay, here's where you're at now. You think about courses, right? That 101 course, the 201 course, the 301 course. Like it goes in levels. shows that you need some foundational knowledge before you move on. So a staircase can also be a picture for something like that. I created this the other day to explain something to a client. This is Eugene Schwartz's book, Breakthrough Advertising, written in 1966. This is his stuff. I took his stuff and I put it on a pyramid. I colored the pyramid from cold to hot because that's kind of what this is about. It's about levels of awareness in terms of future clients coming into your world. As we would say, as Eugene Schwartz would say, it'd be the prospects level of awareness. But I took his work and I put it in a pyramid, and then I'm like, and hey, here's what we need to do to move them up that ladder is we need to educate. And when they have a problem, they don't know what the solution is, or they want a solution but they don't know how to get it. That's an educational process. Up here, where they get to know you, is know, like, and trust. And this is Bob Berg's work that we use all the time. So I've taken some stuff from other people, some ideas of my own, and put it into a little picture. So I have a picture that I can use to explain some really intangible kind of stuff to clients when I work with them. So you can take, then this can be actually a really nice way to learn and to think about stuff. You can read something and you could go, okay, how do I conceptualize this? Can I draw a picture of it? So I will often do this when I'm reading books. I'll just like, okay, how do I build this into a little model so I can remember what it is I'm reading, even if they haven't done it. Now, this is not, in hindsight, probably not the best model for this particular thing, because this is more of a process. So I look at a process from never heard of you before to new client: attention, interest, desire, action. If you've been in my world for any length of time, you've heard me drone on and on and on about this, because this is how people make buying decisions. And this is the process that they go through step by step as they make a buying decision. It's kind of mapped into this. So this is, you can do a pyramid, build on the levels, or this is step by step by step by step. This happens, then this happens, and this happens, and this happens. So this kind of a structure works as well to itemize what happens in each stage. This works really well for a process. Like, this is like a process arrow, process diagram. This is from my when I write copy for clients. This is the process that we go through as we work together. And what happens in this is not so much like a pyramid, because the earlier stages are just a way to get to the final result. Like the final result in the copy, it's a document that has words on it. But the process to get there is, this is what we're going to do. First we're going to do this research phase. It's about discovery, and that's not creating the final product, but we're going to create some kind of temporary work products there. We're going to have some notes. We're going to have some diagrams just to use as raw materials, and it's going through these stages. And this takes something that's like, the process is invisible. This is a way of explaining all of the magic that goes into the work that you do. It's like, hey, like, this is not a matter of I just type some random words on a piece of paper and send it to you. We're going through a process. This is how I do it. And as I explain this, I can explain why it works the way it does and why it's important. And it highlights and makes visible the kind of time investment in putting this together. And a lot of people complain, it's like, my clients don't understand how much work goes into creating this end product. When you map out the process in this visible way and walk them through it, it increases the value of your services. And some of our clients have given us this feedback, that it makes you more professional. It makes you feel like your client knows that you've got a process and you've got your shit together, and that you're going to be able to create the result that you're promising. So it really accentuates the value and builds trust with your potential client to outline your process. And it also can create clarity for you, especially if you're like, I'm not exactly sure how I do things. I'm not exactly sure how long they'll take. Mapping out a process like this can be really helpful, and it can help you answer the questions that clients ask, like, how long is it going to take? And sometimes this is a process, starts at the beginning, has an end result, and then we're done. Beginning to end, finished. Sometimes you have an iterative process. It builds. You're going around and around and around in circles. This is the process of what Georgie and I teach our level 1 clients. It's like, this is what you're going to do. You're going to do something to get leads, try to get it, future clients, have people to talk to. So you're going to do something to get those. You're going to have those conversations, run the assessment with people. Some of them are going to buy. You're going to track, how did that all work out, and assess how you're doing, find ways to improve. Then you're going to make yourself a new plan, take more actions. You're going to go round and around and around in a circle, making it better all the time. This is constant cycle of improvement until you have something that's totally awesome and works really well. And that's when you know that you're at that kind of like at the end of the level 1 business. It's like, I got this. I can sell stuff. This makes sense. Then you're ready to go into level 2, because you can refine that, you can expand on it. Because you have something that works. So iterative process, if you do something with your clients that requires a few revisions, I have a diagram like this when I talk about the process of doing revisions. It's like, I'm going to send it to you, you're going to review it, we're going to talk about it, I'm going to fix it, I'm going to send it to you. We're going to go around and around in this circle until you're happy with it. Explains how it works. So this is if your process cycles through, this can be a nice way to put that on paper. We showed this one. Was this yesterday or the day before? This is the presentation. This is kind of like using circles to explain things. You got this big circle that has all these things. You got the smaller circle has these things. This itty bitty circle in the middle. Nice little diagram to explain this concept of what you're concerned with, what you have influence over, and what you have control over. A nice little diagram. You could use something like this to explain something to clients. So that Venn diagrams, my favorite. Venn diagram. I like Venn diagrams because they have this the sense that each one of the circles is a whole. It's individual in a way, but it interacts with the other circles. And then when you combine all 3 circles, you get a certain result. And within the intersections of individual circles, you have you get a result there. But that result isn't fully complete until you have all 3 of the circles overlapping. So Venn diagrams can be really nice for explaining how things work together. This is my super fancy Venn diagram message map. I first made one of these just before Georgie and I started working together. And I was using it to explain how marketing worked and all of the things that you needed to do for marketing. This is an example of the one I use for copy. And I'm using this to explain, like, this was like basically provided the structure of a presentation, and I'm drawing this map and building the model interactively as I was doing the presentation. And on the feedback form, I had somebody actually wrote in, what did they say? I want to hire you right now to make one of these for my business. It was just like, I'm like, oh, cool, this is super helpful. And this became part of my process in working with clients, is to help them map out what their business looks like. And this, by the way, is exactly what we do for our clients in level 2, is we help them create this kind of a model for their own business. So it has the results that you offer, how you do your work, and the details of exactly how each one of those pieces work. So your models can get kind of fancy and kind of extended, and they can cover a whole lot about what you're doing. To play around with this and to get started, this is PowerPoint, my favorite tool. And you'll see, if you use PowerPoint, right up here, there's a thing called SmartArt. And it has a gazillion different kinds of models. And these, different visuals, different ways of taking information. So if you've got some things that you want to explain, some processes you take people through, or some concepts that you work with in your business, you want to see how they fit together, you can go into this SmartArt and play around with some of these models. and you can type in your information and it'll magically build shapes with labels and stuff like that. And this can be a really fun way to play with creating models, and there's lots of ideas for how that information might be put together. So this is like the models, the flow chart, the kind of left, left brain logical kind of stuff. I like that a lot, but not everybody is as into that as me. The other way you can do this is through metaphors. Metaphors are more of a right brain kind of way to explain stuff. The other day we talked about Stephen Covey likening time management to you have a jar with time. You have big things that you need to do and you got little tasks that you need to do. And in organizing your time, you want to put the big rocks in first so that they fit, and then you fit the little tasks in between. Once again, taking something conceptual, how do I manage my time and set my priorities, and making it really visible and easy to understand. And in fact, he used to do this as a demonstration at the front of the room. Then you take the big jar and you put the little rocks in and say, see, you can't put the big rocks in now because it's all taken up by little rocks. So instead, we put the big rocks in first, and then we put the little rocks in, and look, they flow around the big rocks. Makes a nice demonstration for explaining a concept. And it's something that people can remember. And we were talking about the storytelling the other day, whenever that was. We were talking about the idea that your client is the star of their own show, and you're just a bit player in it. You're the guide, and you show up for a short period of time, and it's just your little blip in their movie, and just a way of providing some context and be able to take something, like, well, here's the hero's journey story framework, and applying it in a way that people can get. It's like, okay, I get it. I'm not in the main credits for their movie. I'm listed on one of those back screens with all those multiple names. That's where I show up. One of my clients did this. We were talking about kind of like using a pyramid or a process, and she's like, oh, she says, I see it as a tree. It's like the knowledge is like the roots. So you got the basic foundation and the concepts and the knowledge. Those are the roots, and then the trunk is the structure, and then the results are the leaves. And she's like, drew this picture on a napkin. I'm like, that's beautiful. A beautiful way to describe your work, right? It's organic. It works kind of like a tree. We talk about the idea for marketing is like planting seeds, and when clients come in, like that's the harvest, and you can plant seeds and you don't see anything happening until much later when those seeds have germinated and they've sprung up, and that's when your clients appear. Great way to look at things. You can look at nature. You can look at how other things work. The whole idea is comparing one thing to something else and making it visible. So tree could be nice. I like process diagrams, step by step by step. You could a rocket launch. When those big old rockets go to the moon, they go in stages, and they drop this stage and they drop that stage, and you finally end up with the little capsule that ends on the moon. And you hear this a lot in business. They talk about rocket launches. They talk about launching your business, and the point they're making is that it creates you need an incredible amount of energy and effort to get the thing off the ground, and then it flows smoother once it leaves the atmosphere, kind of thing. But you could, if you wanted to, if you had a process of multiple stages, you could describe it like a rocket, if you wanted to. Like, it's that kind of a process. We talk about levels of business, level 1, 2, and 3. We could talk about this as, like the baby, the child, the adult, right? And the fact that, a level 1 business is a baby, and it's not reasonable to expect that a baby business can do what an adult business does. It needs to go through these growth stages. Then you see that, the level 2 business, the child has a lot more ability to do stuff. They're able to walk and talk and climb, and they can do a lot of things that little babies can't. And it's just giving your business time to grow up and to go through those stages. So we could talk about that. So that's my kind of fast forward ideas about creating pictures, creating models, creating metaphors to explain things in your business and to add to your marketing. And a final kind of permission slip, if you find this idea interesting, is to try it. Make some sketches, go into PowerPoint and build some models, or think about some metaphors. Think about how you could describe what you do in those sort of in a compare it to the seasons, or to how a car works. We talked the other day about your marketing, your systems and your processes being the engine of the car, and the words are the gasoline, that kind of thing. It's how can you make what you do more visible by using visuals to describe it. So that is and this concludes my presentation. I can't, oh, there it is. Can't find the buttons. All right. Do we have questions?
Oh, I'm like, I lost my screen, but just kidding. I have to go back to it. Let's see. Da-da-da.
Oh, this is the great comment here, to have a few different kinds to explain to different clients. This is actually something I picked up. I've talked a number of times about these guys, Thought Leaders, thoughtleaders.com.au. They have, do I have it here? I think where did I put it? Where did I put my green book? I don't know where it is. They have this green book. I'm going to get it, this green book.
Well, she goes to get the green book. If you do have any other questions about models, diagrams, metaphors, any of those kinds of things, or other questions, put them in our chat on Zoom or Facebook comments. I'm watching that too. Woo!
Here, Thought
Green
Leaders,
book.
the green book.
There you go.
Really cool, and this is what I learned from these guys, is the idea that when you're creating models, because I were already doing models, right? And this is their thing about creating models. You want to create models for all the stuff that you talk about with create models for everything to explain stuff to your clients. So, but they say do a model and a metaphor, and that way you get the logical left brainy kind of people, and then you get the more picture right brainy people. So you want to, for everything you teach, you want to do both. So I've been working really hard on building metaphors, because that's my natural instinct, is to put it in a flow chart, to, it's a circle or square or an arrow or a triangle or something. But for a lot of people, they understand better when you talk about a metaphor. So what Matt Church, the fellow who came up with this idea, says do both. Do the model and do the metaphor, and that way you get both people, and you've got two ways of describing it. And I thought that was kind of cool. So yeah, different ways to describe it. And advance credit here, if you can describe your thing in terms of their thing. Like if you could take your the work that you do and describe it in the way that, like if I was to let's say theoretically, I don't do this, but let's say theoretically I was going to write some copy for a restaurant. If I could explain the copywriting process in terms of they order the food, you cook the food, you take the food to the table, then that makes it immediately understandable based on what they do. So extra credit if you can do it that way.
What a fun way to do things too. And it's creative, it's challenging, it's fun, it stretches your mind. I think it's almost one of those things too that kind of takes that pressure off of doing things. It's like, oh, how can we just kind of make this light and fun and see what happens?
And it's your model. Like, this is the other thing too. It's yours. So there isn't like a right and wrongness about it. It's like it works or it doesn't, and that's up to you and your clients to understand that. Like, if it makes sense to you, and it's like, this is my work, this is how it works. It's like, who am I to say, oh, that shouldn't be a Venn diagram, that should be a pyramid. It's like, use whatever you'd like. Your pyramid doesn't have to be a triangle; it could be a square. It's like it's yours. It's unique. It's kind of like a fingerprint. But yeah, it's just like, get creative with it and experiment with it. It's like that fancy pants Venn diagram that I create, the message map, is I always tell my clients when I make one for them, I'm like, experiment with it. It's like, this is our best guess right now, right? Go and use it. And you'll probably need to tweak and refine it, because you're going to find things that are missing. You're going to want to change some of the labels. It's like, make yourself your version 1 of your pyramid or your process. And you might say, oh, hang on a second, I've got this as a 4-step process. It's actually 5 steps. It's like, add 1. Yesterday's process was 4 steps. Today's is 5. As you get clarity, you can make your model better. You can find new and better ways to describe things. But I cannot overemphasize how powerful it is to be able to take an invisible offer and turn it into something that people can actually see and get. I go as far as to say it makes all the difference in the world. In terms of explaining things, in terms of selling things, in terms of having people see the value in your offer. It's magical.
It's magic. It's so magical. Any other questions about models, metaphors, any other marketing, sales?
Is anybody else as excited about this as me, or am I just geeking out?
I get very excited about it, and I think for our clients too, this is that they love the Venn diagrams, right? The Venn diagram, those that have the level 2 businesses. And that's what you've been hearing a lot of times in the chat. People talk about their diagram. The Venn diagram changed my life, changed my business, because it does give you that go-to point. It becomes the base for presentations, for workshops, for talks. And I think when you're able to put your process or how you do something into a model, you do then become ready, say for short term, like not a lot of notice. Someone's like, hey, can you come do this talk? Sure, okay. Worst case scenario, I'll just walk you through my picture. But it really gives a starting point for that.
It creates a structure. I mean, it creates a structure for assessment. Is one thing. Like, when we work with our level 1 clients, we do a very simple structure for an assessment. Keep it fluid. It's really simple, straightforward, but it's the beginning. It is the when we create that, that's the very beginning of the seeds of what's going to be a bigger model for their signature service after they've gone out and refined it through actual experience and research. So it's really great for that. And you can use a model interactively. Like, it creates a structure for the conversation is the other piece of it. It's like, I'm presenting models, like, when I showed you the Venn diagram, all the circles and all that. When I use that, I build it interactively. I start with a blank sheet of paper, and I'm like, okay, here's what you want. Here are the 3 things you need to do. And I create 3 circles, and then explain what each one of those circles is. You need 1, 2, 3. And then it's like, because when you have 1 and 2, you get this result. When you get 2 and 3, you get this result. And here's how we get those 3 things. These are the actual step-by-steps. That's the outside, right? So it creates a container for the conversation. It creates a flow without having to remember step-by-step on a script. And it walks, like, it clarifies how you're going to work with clients. I just saw something flash up in the chat about this really helps me with the service business. Absolutely, it does. It can help you explain why things take so long. It can help you explain why you need certain forms on a certain day, why there are deadlines. You can add deadlines to it. This part's going to take 2 weeks. This part's going to take 3 weeks. This part's going to take 4 days. And you can create timelines for that, and you can walk clients through it. And it adds a level of professionalism. That's one of our clients was saying about that. It's like, I feel so professional. I feel so put together about what I'm doing. And it's great. And it's at the same time, it's kind of it's a reminder to you about how you do things and what you're supposed to say in what order. Kind of fun that way.
Exactly. On Facebook, we have, it creates clarity. Excited to move some of the conversation I have with clients into diagrams and metaphors.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think because
It's great.
our brain likes pictures. We like to think in pictures. So when we have these diagrams and these models, I think it's easier for our clients to follow along and easier to understand. And it helps us get a lot clearer in explaining what we do because we've had to take the time to put it in this kind of a format. And like you were saying, that's where you might come up with, oh, I thought this was 4 steps, but it's actually 5. Or, oh, I don't really like the order of this pyramid. Maybe this becomes before that. I hadn't really thought about it like that. You know, and you get to play with it, move the blocks, change the pieces, try it out, bring it back, you know, see what happens. That's another thing, you know, we're always preaching a lot about data, 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 data. Test the data. What's the real life data that you're getting? What's the real life feedback that's happening? And then when you do make these adjustments, it's actually based on something really relevant. It's not that imagination stuff that you can, oh, I think it's going to be like this, but there's actually a concrete reason why you're making the shifts and doing the things that you're doing.
Yes.
Let's see what I've got some chat comments. Very useful idea. I've done sloppy lists. Now I can see a more defined picture. I will rewatch this to get more clarity. Yes, thank goodness for recordings. Woohoo!
Patty talks fast when she gets excited.
Well, and oftentimes, you know, it's like, oh, I like this part. Oh, I like this part. Let me go back and dissect this. And I think it's great because there's so many examples in your slides, which for me, I love having examples to work from. So I can go, oh, maybe I want to try it like this, or maybe I want to try it like this, or ooh, let me see how this one fits in. I find it's often easier to have a little bit of a template or something I can kind of work from, as opposed to making it up in my head from the beginning.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Like take somebody else's model, right? Like, look for some, take Maslow's pyramid or whatever. And it's like, okay, if my work was a pyramid, how would that look? And the SmartArt is really fun to play with on PowerPoint too, because you can start with one and you can change it to something else. And you're like, oh, okay, how does this look as an arrow? Oh, how does it look with a ladder? There's different ways, you can visually see those sorts of templates.
Exactly. That was a great comment too. I think that making things easier for clients to understand helps them save face. They may not even know what questions to ask and might feel embarrassed about their lack of knowledge. Having a clear process allows you to work through everything with them and educate them in a tactful way as you go along.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they don't know. And that's the thing. Clients don't know. Like people say, oh, well, all they want to know is the price. And it's like, that's because that's a question they know how to ask. They don't have specific questions about anything else because they don't really get what you do. But when you outline a process like that, all of a sudden more intelligent kind of, maybe not the right word for it, but better questions come out from the client when you explain the process and how things work. They get more involved in it too, especially if you're drawing it interactively. They get very involved in it. It's kind of an unfolding. It's like, oh, what's going to happen next? What label goes in this circle? It's a way for them to get involved. Yeah.
Yeah, it really opens up curiosity for sure. It's like, oh, yeah. Well, how do I do this? Many of my prospective clients have told me they don't know what know what I don't know. Totally. Yeah. And they try to figure it out and they're like, and I think the models, the metaphors, diagrams, all of those things help, like exactly like she was saying, to let people know what questions to ask. Oh, I hadn't thought about this. Oh, when you're saying this and this, give me some clarity here. And what those questions do is allow you to also adjust your model. Oh, I'm getting this question all the time. Maybe that's a piece that I need to educate people on. I'm going to put that here because people don't seem to understand that. Perfect. And that's stuff you would never have without real world data. And that's why we speak so much too about in level 1, where it really is about this experimentation, getting clients, talking to people, collecting that data that makes everything else so much easier as you're building, growing, moving into level 2 and level 3. But it's so critical and just foundational to build your business on.
Yeah, it becomes clear, and it's a nice way to start. Start with a simple model, and expand on it over time as you get more information. It gives you a picture to build on, and it's kind of a place to kind of hang your knowledge and experience off of too, and the things that you do, like with the message map kind of model with the Venn diagram and all the circles. Like I'll tell my clients, it's like, this should be your business as a whole. And it's like, if you're doing something, whatever you do in your business, like when you're working with clients, should fit into one of those circles. And if it doesn't fit in the circle, that is a sign that the model needs to be adjusted. Not that your business needs to be chopped off. Like, this is a way to encompass multiple things into a business. It's like, that should cover everything. And when you look at the model, you go, okay, this fits in there, this fits in there, and it organizes your body of work in a way. And it provides a lot of clarity, like a lot of clarity. It's, I printed it out and I put it on top of my desk. It's a very common thing for people to do with it, because they're like, okay, now I can see it. This is what I do. This is this thing that I do. There's a comment in here about adjusting the ingredients in a recipe, and I just wanted to say, metaphor.
Yeah.
You could totally have a recipe for success. Great metaphor. Recipe for a great life.
Exactly.
Yeah. Recipe for a great website. Like whatever you do, a recipe is a great way to. Here's all the stuff that goes in it. Here's how we do it. It's a great metaphor.
Yep. Here's all the ingredients. Bake like this. Voila, the cake, or the cookies, or the fudge.
Oh, going down the rabbit hole. Metaphor.
Yes, exactly. Any other thoughts, questions, comments you might have before the sand runs out of the hourglass?
Ooh.
For today.
Right?
What that? Yeah. The days of our lives. That's right. The days of our
metaphor.
Metaphor. Now we're all going to be going out of here seeing like metaphors everywhere we go, which is really cool too. Because you start to recognize them, and then you might take note of, oh, I could use that one. Oh, I could use that one. Oh, this one fits here. It's so perfect. Yeah. It's really, really good. What I love too is, no, go ahead.
Oh yeah, write down your ideas. Journal.
Yeah.
This is me this morning with coming up with this topic. Little diagrams and notes.
Yeah, pictures. I love puns and wordplay. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You find the angle of this that's fun for you, right? Like, it brings some fun. Like, if this is hard, work to do and it's not fun, go in a different direction, right? Like, metaphors break your brain, and models are more obvious, than do the models, right? Or vice versa, or find a pun or a word play, or whatever works for you, including nothing at all. If you're like, that's fine too.
Yeah, exactly.
If you like lists, some people just prefer lists, steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They don't need it to be in an arrow. Doesn't mean anything to them. But I will say, you could take a list in like a list in order, steps 1 through 27, and you could put it in an arrow, and it makes it more accessible for your client, just because you have an arrow with it.
Yeah.
So even if you don't like models, you can use really simple ones, because your clients might like them.
Exactly. And that goes back to thinking about what would your client like, which could tie into our topic on Friday about how to make your clients happy.
Draw them pictures. Give them metaphors.
Draw them pictures. Give them metaphors. Stick figures are awesome too. That's for sure. So cool.
Hey, that's what we can. We help people build a stick figure business.
Instead of a 6-figure stick figure business. That's hilarious.
See, there's a tagline for somebody who does graphic facilitation, right?
Exactly. Oh, that's so funny. We amuse ourselves anyway, so that's pretty good.
We amuse ourselves, absolutely.
That's right. And then tomorrow we have our special guest Tyrell Mara, who also uses models, which is awesome.
Oh, cool.
I was just thinking about that as you were doing that, as you were drawing, like, oh, hey, he has a diagram and a model too, and a metaphor actually, because he often talks about, and his model matches his metaphor about being in the deep end, climbing up the diving board, right? Diving off into the deep end. How do we get ourselves up the ladder to dive off and stay there? So that's going to be
all over the place.
They're all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be super cool. Maybe he can screen share something tomorrow or something where we can see his diagrams and his models and metaphors and all that good stuff. But way cool, way cool, way cool. All right, last call. 10:30.
It's 10:30.
It's 10:30. Time to go. Someone's playing hangman. That's right.
That kind of a reverse disappearing model. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
No, it appears. Yeah, you could do that. I don't know.
You could do that. You know, and if you guys have thoughts or comments or questions that come up after the episodes and you forget them the next day, please post them in our Facebook group. Because or
send us an email or whatever. Yeah.
Send us an email, Facebook page. I think you can even comment on YouTube, our YouTube thingies. We're getting better at that. We're learning. We're learning. Lots of places to find us. If you haven't subscribed,
we're little YouTube babies.
We're YouTube babies. That's right. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube
mostly
channel,
cry and crap our fans. That's all we do on YouTube.
But please subscribe because we are trying to build the thing so we can get a normal URL instead of this long number.
Yeah, if we get 100 subscribers, we get to get out of the crib.
Yeah, exactly. We're trying to crawl out of that playpen. Come on. So that would be very helpful for us if you could do that. And yeah, other than that, we will see you tomorrow.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
That's right.
Bye.
Bye.